It wasn't so long ago that it was a respected trait to be really hard on yourself, to look inward, to search for an accurate self-assessment, to seek out negative feedback, to be hard on yourself. But over the last 2 decades, there's been a mammoth movement toward building self-esteem apart from merit. We are not human doings, we are human beings. We are worthy merely because we're worthy, because we're human and we're people, or because we're part of a particular group. I'm black and I'm proud, I'm a woman and I'm proud, I'm Italian and I'm proud. I lament this switch, this shift from a focus on being hard on yourself and a realistic self-assessment, and then a hard-nosed plan for personal growth and acceptance of who you are, with a replacement of this core acceptance of who you are, and that's okay. Ironically, at least as I see people, the people who are most successful and contented are those who are hardest on themselves, who feel that they are aware of their strengths, yes, but also of their weaknesses. And it seems like the least productive, least contributory people are more likely to think they're great merely by virtue of their existence on the planet. Or at best that, well, I tried hard. I gave it a good shot. That's not enough. All of those pop psych people about saying grit and growth mindset, let alone power poses, are really skirting the core issue of the primacy of a rational self-assessment and, as I said, an acceptance of your weaknesses as something that is indeed a weakness and perhaps not ameliorable, and an acceptance of your strengths, and where possible, building on your strengths, and where necessary, remediating your weaknesses. How do you get that accurate self-assessment of who you are? There are dirty words like IQ test, intelligence test, but there is no single instrument, no instrument of any, even combination of instruments, that have more predictive power over the level of your academic and work and life achievement than intelligence tests and their proxies, which are highly correlated, the SAT, the GRE, etc. Of course, they're not perfect. No instrument is perfect. But to blow those off as merely a test, let alone as racist, sexist, whatever, when in fact the scores over-predict real-world performance of African Americans, for example. That's a useful indicator of the approximate level where you should be aspiring. That is certainly in concert with your real-world experiences and how much success you're having, how much ability you're having. Even if you're not working as hard as you learn things quickly. You can solve problems quickly and accurately. But of course, your self-concept needs to be not just a function of your intellectual ability, which can be ascertained, as I said, both by those reviled tests, but as well as by your real-world achievements in school and at work and such. But of course, there are the emotional and social dimensions of competence. How good really are you in the social domain? Are you good at providing appropriate feedback, but generally erring toward the positive? And critically, are you good at helping to motivate others to be their best selves in the way in which you give feedback, in the way in which you just interact? And emotionally, how together really are you? Is it really the other person's fault so often when you're angry all the time, or depressed, or blaming others? How much resides within you? Will really moving to another geographic location really make you that much better off, or will you bring your problems with you? So, I don't think I need to make this very long. Well, I'll say one more thing. often, sometimes deep down, if we look into ourselves and we're really candid, we can reasonably assess our both intellectual, emotional, and social competence. But of course, it's very valuable to get feedback from others, whether it be a test or talking to respected ones at work or in your personal life and asking, maybe even begging for honest feedback. And not necessarily accepting it as gospel, but at least considering it, like any wise leader would certainly listen carefully to his or her consigliere, his advisors, and accept some of it, reject others. But I don't think there's anything that's really much more central to your personal development and collectively society's, not just development, but achieving its potential, than a realistic assessment of strengths and weaknesses and deciding what to improve, what to accept. Far more valuable than this, I'll use the word silly, in my judgment, this silly focus on self-esteem. Self-esteem too often leads to complacency, even if you really are great intellectually, socially, and emotionally. If you think you're hot stuff, you're not going to grow. Even no matter how great you are, we all should be growing. And if you're into the self-esteem thing, it's more likely to anesthetize you, make you feel I'm fine as is. Some of the most successful people in the world, as I alluded to earlier, are focused less on what's good about them, because that's there already, but on what they're weak at, so that they can continually keep growing. And that's true whether you're 16 or 86. Because in addition to it keeping you growing, which enables you to be more contributory, feeling better about your life, it gives you hope. Even if you're toward the end of your work life or your total life. If you can say, you know what, I really want to grow at this, or I want to build on my strength at that. I think I want to end by being, instead of pontificating from afar, I think I want to end by saying a little bit about what I consider my strengths and my weaknesses and my goals. I have no idea what I'm going to say, but in the act of saying it, maybe it will be both instructive to you and maybe even helpful to me. My strengths, I can think on my feet. I care profoundly about making a difference. I know a lot about career counseling and a lot about education reform. Those are my two things. And playing the piano. My weaknesses, I'm way too intense for most of the world. Most people, after about 30 seconds, start to pull back. I see it no matter how much I try to resist. So I'm bad working with people. Unless I'm really on my best behavior, like when I'm counseling, then I restrain myself. So I'm best off, except for my counseling, doing solo work or giving talks like this. Or I do a lot of keynotes and stuff like that, radio, TV. So that's fine. Other weaknesses, I can't fix a thing. So if anything around the house requires more than, say, changing the toilet paper roll, I just accept that's a weakness. I'm not going to ameliorate it. I'm not going to be good at that. Even though my father was good at it, he tried to teach me. It's just not who I am. I call the guy, and yeah, it's usually a guy. Another weakness, I can't draw worth squat. So I don't try to draw anything. If I need to draw something, I'll use a graphic design thing, or I'll just use stick figures. Or I'll say I can't do that. So I'm not going to take any art lessons. And yet, seemingly paradoxically, I can really play the piano. I was born playing the piano. Other weaknesses. My looks. I never try to get by in my looks. And I don't try to spend a lot of time fluffing it up like if I were to wear a toupee or something. Never in a million years. That's not who I am. Or try to hide it all by spending a lot of time on clothing or whatever. I accept that as a weakness, and I just try to build on my strengths. I think it's a strength that I work my butt off. I work probably 70 hours a week on average, real 70 hours, not, frumphering around for 70 hours. And I resist the societal pressure to have more work-life balance. So the implications of that are, for me, that I really should be spending as much time as possible doing what I'm doing here, giving talks like this off the cuff, writing, after I finish this, I'm going to try to convert this into an article that's a little more coherent and concise. doing more radio, TV, podcast, whatever, who knows. Seeing my clients. And not thinking about my weaknesses that can't be easily remediated, or at least aren't worth the effort. Anyway, so now I invite you to look inward to yourself. What's your own self-appraisal of your intelligence, and where on the hierarchy of intellectually demanding careers and avocations you should be? How together are you emotionally, and what do you need to accept about your emotional self? Like my intensity, I've just got to accept it. Or what do you feel you can realistically change? And how? With counseling, simply being conscious, journaling. I'm not a big fan of pharmacological approaches. They often have side effects that are almost as bad or as bad as the benefits, and they sometimes fade. And socially, what are your strengths and weaknesses socially, and what do you want to accept about yourself? What do you want to change? How do you want to build on your social strengths? Are you a joiner? Should you get involved more with more organizations? Should you get together with friends more? Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'll just say I appreciate your watching. I am Marty Nemko. Feel free to give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you see as appropriate. Your comments, positive or negative, as long as respectful, are certainly welcome. You're hitting the share button and sharing your social media. Subscribing to my channel, of course, is particularly welcome. And in any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.